About their investigation into the killing of Anne Maguire at Corpus Christi College.
If I could just introduce, this is Detective Superintendent Simon Belden, who's a Senior Investigating Officer, Chief Inspector Nick Adams, who leads neighbourhood policing in this area, Nigel Richardson, who's Leeds City Council Director of Children's Services, and Martin Dowling, who's the Chair of Governors for the school. We're all primarily going to read statements. If we could keep any questions to the conclusion of that, we will take a couple of questions at the end. Thanks.
OK, good morning. West Yorkshire Police continue to investigate the murder of Anne Maguire, aged 61, who died after being stabbed in an incident at Corpus Christi Catholic School shortly before noon yesterday. A post-mortem examination has taken place and has shown that she has died as a result of multiple stab wounds. The suspect does remain in custody and will be interviewed at some point during today. Given his young age, this is a process which needs to be handled very sensitively and may take some time to complete. The pupils who witnessed this incident are still being interviewed by specialist officers and are very experienced in dealing with child witnesses, and they will ensure that their welfare is paramount. A scene does remain in place within the school, but is no longer actively under forensic examination. We are working with the school to ensure that any disruption is kept to an absolute minimum. This is clearly an unprecedented and tragic incident which has left the school and wider community in a state of shock. It is an extremely sensitive situation, and the needs of the school, the students, the staff that work here and the victim's family are at the forefront of our minds while we continue this investigation.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can I start by also offering my condolences to Anne Maguire's family, her friends, colleagues and students here at Corpus Christi. This is very much a school that is at the heart of this community, and I'd like to pay tribute firstly today to all of the staff and pupils that have come into school today to support each other and that wider school family here at Corpus Christi. As my colleague said, this is a horrific incident. It's unprecedented nationally, but very much in this local community. It's something that has caused a great deal of shock and distress, as you'll imagine. This is very much an isolated incident. This is not part of a wider problem that exists locally here. Myself, along with the local neighbourhood policing team officers, are supporting school today and supporting the leadership team of the school, and we're working in support of our own specialist investigators. But mostly our work is going to be to support school, the students and the wider community. To that end, we have a local schools specialist Safer Schools officer who works here within Corpus Christi High School, and she's been a part of this school community for the last 5 years. That's part of a wider partnership approach that we have to neighbourhood policing and policing within schools across Leeds district, and very much that officer is part of a link between the pastoral team at the school and the local neighbourhood policing team, and is there to support families and the wider community with issues that they encounter through their normal daily life. I think the fact that that officer's here and is such an integral part of the school is going to be essential as people come to terms with what's happened here, and supporting them through the relationship that she's got well established in the coming weeks. My role certainly is to support her and to make sure that she's got everything that she needs from a police perspective to support the school and the wider community, and we will be here as long as the community and the school need us. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name is Nigel Richardson. I'm Director of Children's Services here at Leeds City Council, and I'm speaking on behalf of Leeds City Council and the wider Children's Services partnership here in Leeds. Our thoughts and sympathies are with Anne's family, friends and colleagues at this difficult time. Anne was an amazing, inspirational teacher and a pillar of the local community and a real asset to the city of Leeds. Our concern since the incident yesterday has been the welfare of everybody in the school community, and we're here offering all the support that is necessary for as long as is necessary in response to a tragic, isolated incident. Corpus Christi Catholic College is a wonderfully strong and caring school. The sense of community is tangible and very apparent as you enter the building, which is clear evidence that it was the right decision to keep the school open. I was here yesterday and witnessed how well staff, students and partners cope with such an unprecedented and difficult situation. And as you can see today, the whole community has come together to continue to support one another. Thank you.
Morning everyone. I'm Martin Dowling, Chair of Governors at Corpus Christi Catholic College. Anne was a wonderful and dedicated teacher and will be remembered fondly by all of us. She had taught at Corpus Christi for 40 years and touched the lives of many people in the local community, having also taught the parents of some of our current pupils. I would also like to pay tribute to the staff and students for the way they have coped with this tragic event, and to the police and external services for their support. This has been a shocking but isolated incident, and we want to reassure everyone connected with the school that specialist support is being provided for pupils and colleagues alike. Our school mission statement states that we work, learn, pray and grow together. At this difficult time, we also grieve and support together as a community.
I'll say we will take a couple of questions, but clearly we're going to be limited in how much detail we can get into about the investigation.
Could I ask Mr. Dowling just to step forward for a second, please? Could you tell us, sir, you've been inside the school this morning. Can you just describe for us, if it's possible to do so, the atmosphere there among pupils and staff?
The atmosphere is very calm and reverent. The children have been absolutely amazing this morning. We've had assemblies, services, and the children have responded in a magnificent manner, as have the staff also. Obviously, very upset in some cases, but happy to be in their own community and helping each other.
Can you talk us through the process of how you begin to encourage children to come to terms with what's happening? And it's incredibly difficult.
Obviously, we have a lot of support from external services, from external groups. They will be guiding us and advising us on the best ways to help the children and the staff and everyone else associated with the school.
As a school and as an institution, how do you move forward from this?
It's very difficult for us, but we have to assess everything going forward, and I'm sure that we as a community, not only the school but the church, the diocese, the parish and the whole community of this part of Leeds will join together to help us in this matter.
Was there any indication that this might happen, and if so, were any steps taken in the days beforehand?
No indications at all.
You spoke about encouraging pupils to try to come to terms with this. How are the staff coping, their colleagues?
It's very difficult for staff because she was a very popular and long-serving member of staff here at the school, and the members of staff are being supported equally as much as the pupils.
Can we ask Chief Inspector
to open schools today? What was the process?
As you can see from the tributes you see here and the response last night, the spontaneous response from the community, the best way that we could support our students and our staff was for us all to be together and to do that as a community as a whole.
Detective Superintendent Belden and Chief Inspector Adams, this might be a question for both of you. Anita McVeigh, BBC News. Given that you've said this is thankfully an isolated and an unprecedented incident, what would the appropriate response be going forward in terms of providing support and reassurance and also security, thinking about security issues?
Guys, can you just
Sorry,
step forward
we
to
needed to sit
come to the microphones, please?
I think in terms of reassurance, I go back to what I said before, really. The relationship that we've got already established with the school through the local Safer Schools officer is a kind of integral part in how we support the school and the school community in going forward. Obviously to the wider community, to parents of children across schools in Leeds and to teachers across schools in Leeds. Most of the high schools in Leeds have Safer Schools officers. They will be there providing that reassurance to people that this is an isolated incident and that actually schools are very safe places to come to study, to work, and actually people need to recognise that even at this very, very tragic and difficult time.
Can you tell us what steps, if any, are being taken to stop this 15-year-old boy you have in custody being named on social media, which he has been? Are the police taking any steps to try and stop this?
Yeah, I can start, yeah.
Sorry, can we bring you...
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
Thanks.
I'm certainly aware of social media and some of the things that have been published out there, and that is one of the things that I'm picking up as part of the investigation strategy. So that has been looked at during the course of the day, and as things progress, we will look to see what we can do with those things.
How far do you understand so far what happened and why it happened?
Well, as I'm sure you can all appreciate, I'm sure that you've all got a number of questions you'd like to ask about the investigation, but it is still very early days in what we're trying to achieve. So I really don't want to speculate on that, and as I'm sure you appreciate, I am ground by legal processes in certain circumstances anyway, so there's not a lot I can talk about in relation to the investigation at this time. Hope to share some more with you at some stage in the future.
Seen a lot of former pupils out here, obviously very distressed and grieving as well. What support is being offered to them and people in the wider community?
Yes. We're working with a number of partners. We've got educational psychologists on site, we've got Catholic Care on site, we've got access to other resources. I've had an amazing amount of offers from up and down the country actually in terms of specialist support that is available. Because this is such a strong community and it's a community that identifies itself very clearly, that support will be available for anybody who needs it. We're working out the process of how we make that communication available to members of the local community. The priority at the moment is within the school building with the pupils and the staff and their immediate families, but you're quite right, it goes back generations in terms of the impact that this will have across the local community, and we'll work very hard to make sure that that support is there for them.
Mr Richardson, Simon Israel from Channel 4 News. You all talk about it being an isolated incident, but how much does this change things in Leeds in terms of protection and safety in schools?
I mean, we obviously take the safety of children, the welfare of children is of paramount concern to us in Leeds. We've got a very strong children's services partnership across the city of Leeds. We talk about the family of schools in the city of Leeds coming together with the safety and well-being of children as paramount. What we've got to do is step back from this now. It is an isolated incident. We've got to learn from the investigation. Clearly the safeguarding board would take a view, the local safeguarding board will take a view of this and we'll have a look at it with its independent hat on just to see.
So there will be a review?
Well, we'd have to, anything like this, you would expect people to come together on a multi-agency basis and learn the lessons. There's a process we're going through at the moment now as colleagues have demonstrated to you, have highlighted to you, and we have to follow that legal process, but there must be lessons that have to be learned. We have to look at that and then we put those things in place. But I would reiterate that this is unprecedented in our experience and an isolated incident across the city of Leeds.
When you talk about the lessons that might need to be learned, what are you referring to specifically?
I don't know yet, because we don't know what we don't know. In terms of, one of the colleagues just asked a series of questions about what do we know? Do we know about information that was there before the build-up to the alleged incident? We don't know any of that at the moment, so it'd be wrong for me to speculate in terms of what sorts of lessons we might have to learn. But obviously, it's clearly a terrible tragedy has taken place here. I think everybody, and you can see from the response for the local community coming together, the shock that is tangible. So we just need to take our time and learn those lessons as the process moves forward.
Mr Downing, can you just clarify? It's been said that Mrs Edwell is either semi-retired or about to retire. Do you know what the situation was? Was she about to finish work full time?
Yes, she was currently working.
Do you want to come forward to the microphone, please?
Thank you.
She was currently working 4 days a week and due to retire in September.
Retire completely?
Yes.
And can I ask the police, you mentioned the Safer Schools officer. Was she in school yesterday and was she the first one who came to the scene after the children raised the alarm?
She wasn't in school at the time of this incident. Some of the Safer Schools officers support a number of schools across the city. This school is partnered with another school that officer supports, and unfortunately she was actually helping the other school at the time of this incident. So she wasn't one of the first officers that actually responded to this incident. As with many of these things, it came to us via a normal 999 call, and we responded to an emergency that was occurring at the school.
Have you found weapons on other pupils in the past year at this school?
In terms of this school you're talking?
Yes, this school.
This school has absolutely no issues in terms of weapons. The officer that works here, as I said before, is part of a sort of generic partnership that we have within schools across the city, and is in no way a reflection on either problems or concerns that exist about incidents in this school.
Surely there must be some concerns that a pupil has come to school with a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and I think we've covered that in what we've said about obviously the fullness of time. The investigation will tell us what's led to this horrendous incident, and from that then we can work out what needs to happen next.
Right, I think that's probably about us in terms of questions. Obviously, we'll bring you any updates as to the youth in custody or anything else as the day progresses. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Can I just have the officers say?
Well, that's the press conference, still ongoing, a few more questions being asked perhaps, but that was the thrust of it. We heard from the two main police officers involved in this investigation. Detective Superintendent Simon Belden was the officer in the uniform. He's the community superintendent in this area. His job really is to make sure that people understand what's going on, and also Chief Inspector Nick Adams, who is clearly the officer heading up the investigation. One word that was used repeatedly, not only by the police, but perhaps encouraged by the police, by the Chairman of the Board of Governors, Martin Dowling, and also by the children's officer from Leeds City Council, which is the word isolated. They impressed upon us that this is an isolated incident. Nothing has changed in terms of the safety and well-being of the people of this community, or indeed the children at the school. But of course they acknowledge there is now an awful lot of work to be done in terms of repairing the damage done here, and that was there was reference made to specialist police officers accustomed to talking to children, and also to community officers coming from the council, who the council promised would be here as long as was needed, according to the representative of the Children's Services Officer Nigel Richardson. As long as is needed, he said, in terms of specialist help coming from the council to help people come to terms with, I know it's a hackneyed phrase, but certainly to get used to the idea that things have changed for the worse here in this community, but they must still go on. Our crime correspondent Martin Brunt also listening to that press conference with me there. There wasn't much more the police could say. I mean, we would have been foolish to hope for suddenly breakthrough details. Things are proceeding according to plan. A lot of attention given to what they're doing in the school in terms of the children, their parents, the families, and the community. They recognise a lot of work there to be done.
Yes, as we've been saying all morning, that they have to approach the interviewing of so many witnesses in a very gentle manner, because as we've seen from the pupils we've spoken to today, they are still very, very shocked, very traumatised. There are perhaps 30 of them who actually witnessed their teacher being stabbed to death in front of them. You can only imagine how that's affected them, but yet the police have to continue with their murder investigation, and they have to talk to those witnesses. But beyond those direct witnesses, they need to talk to other people who knew both victim and suspect, to build up a picture of what their relationship was and what lay behind what happened yesterday. I mean, I did try and ask that question, but again, as you pointed out, detectives very keen not to give away any real detail about what they're pursuing in terms of motive and exactly what happened. But as we've said before, this is a reasonably straightforward investigation, but they do need to talk to a lot of people. I thought one of the saddest things that came out was the great irony that Mrs. Maguire was about to retire fully after 40 years. We knew that she was working restricted hours, working 4 days a week, but now we've just been told she was going to retire in September. How awful was that?
No, indeed. That sense of shock reiterated there by the chairman of the governors as well, acknowledging Anne Maguire as being a great teacher, but also emphasising this sense of loss. And we've seen that with the teenagers coming here as well, the school leavers, the people who maybe left school a few years ago but immediately have flocked back to this location.
Yeah, I mean, we saw people yesterday who travelled 30, 40 miles to be here because they remembered her, and so many of them said, even when they left after their GCSEs, they still kept in touch with Mrs. Maguire. I mean, people talk about her being at the centre of the school. I mean, what bigger, or the heart of the school, what bigger tribute could you pay to a teacher at your school? Because you and I remember we didn't like all our teachers at school, did we?
But we all remember one or two who helped us.
Absolutely, and that's been the abiding message today, that she was a very much loved teacher here, who kept in touch with her past pupils, again reflected in the numbers of those past pupils who came and insisted on being here. The lad you spoke to this morning, whose family have moved to Wakefield, but he insisted on staying at this school many miles from his home because he so respected staff here, but particularly Mrs. Maguire.
What about the police investigation, Martin? What about the timing of that? What's going on behind the scenes in terms of bringing that to a conclusion?
Well, the other thing that emerged was, again, something we'd speculated on, the slow progress being made in in really talking to the suspect. I mean, I think it was made clear this morning, the last few minutes, that they haven't actually got round to the formal interview of this suspect. And again, we can only imagine the condition that he's in. But he had to be psychologically assessed, we're told. The formal questioning obviously has to begin because they've only got 4 days in which to hold a suspect. But it's a straightforward investigation. They're not looking for any other suspects. They will at some stage have to make a decision on whether to charge or release the suspect. And I guess from what we've already been told, that's unlikely to be a decision made today. But I think maybe this time tomorrow, detectives will have got around to making that ultimate decision.
In general terms, if you have a 15-year-old in custody, what kind of a role do the family of that 15-year-old play?
Well, there will have to be an appropriate adult of some description.